G'day, bird nerds. G'day, nature nuts. G'day, habitat gardeners. I'm Grant. I'm a bird nerd. I'm also a horticulturist. Saturday morning, it can be a bit difficult. Gee, I forgot to unloop me countdown again. Sorry, everyone. Welcome aboard. Please let me know in the comments where you are located, so maybe I can look at tailoring some of the comments directly to you. I've got a very dodgy mouse this morning, so I'm probably going to have to look down and click at the computer a bit more. What I'd planned to do today was just to talk about some of the very basics of introducing an irrigation system, or maybe you don't want an irrigation system. Maybe you just want to know the best way to use water in a wildlife friendly garden. So I've got a few products for us to look at, just the range of products, and to give you an idea of what we can begin with. And I've got a special treat though. First, I don't know if you are involved in Bird Week for this week. In Australia, it's National Bird Week. One more day to go. Have you been doing a bird count? Did you see Gardening Australia yesterday, last night? I didn't, and there's a segment that I want to watch and have a comment, perhaps with you all. So let's start there. Let's start with something about birds, and then get into and we'll get into plasticky, irrigation-y kind of gadgets. And I haven't seen this before, so hopefully we'll all get with it. G'day, Shane. How are you? Let's see. Been very busy Bird Week. All right, you've been participating in Bird Week. 19 surveys, very good. 69 species, that's fantastic. 1,113 birds seen. That is fab. Shane, maybe I can recruit you into first seen and heard each morning, and you can join the people who are participating every day in that. Hello to the people just popping in, the new ones. Please let me know whereabouts you are. If you're a regular in the viewing audience, I might know where you are. I might identify your geography generally. Shane, who has just commented, is... am I right, Shane? You're in the northeastern suburbs of Melbourne, or have I got it wrong again? You're going to have to remind me. I am in the western suburbs of Melbourne, and I have been doing my Aussie bird count each morning, and a couple in the afternoons. Oh, good! You're all coming in now. See, I started early and ran the music and everything to keep you. To get the notifications out. But yeah, it seems to take about 10 or 15 minutes. Okay, what we're going to start with is a segment from Gardening Australia last night. If you've already seen it, I'm really sorry. I haven't, and I thought this might be a good place to start because it's a feature on Aussie Bird Week. Then we'll get into some products and some first principles for introducing an irrigation system or any method of watering in a wildlife friendly garden. So, and if you can't hear anything, or it's too loud or too soft, please let me know in the comments and I'll adjust it. Hopefully this is going to be loud enough for you straight away. Actually, let me just check. I really need a new mouse here. Okay, that's full volume. Okay, let's go.
This week is National Bird Week. Right around the country, we're
Love
getting
Costa.
involved with the backyard bird count. A chance to get to know those friends that share our backyards with us. And there aren't many birds more popular in Australia than the magpie. They're smart and chock-a-block full of personality. A team of researchers in WA are working on just how smart magpies really are.
It's a call that's so familiar. For a lot of us, the song of the magpie is the first sound we hear when we wake up. For a bird that is such a familiar sight and sound in our gardens, most of us probably don't know much about magpies, other than their intelligence and their fearless swooping during breeding season. Behavioural ecologist Mandy Ridley is an associate professor at the University of Western Australia. Over the last decade, Mandy and a succession of her students have made it their mission to research local magpie populations. And their findings are fascinating. Magpies seem really smart. Is that the case?
Yeah, I mean, they're really interactive and they're really curious, but they also solve problems really quickly. If you spend time walking in a park with a magpie group, you can see them figuring things out.
What are the objectives of your research?
I guess my initial interest was they're a group living species, and I think that's really fascinating. Why do you live in a group? A lot of bird species, they live in pairs for the breeding season and then they just live alone. And so when I first came to Perth and I saw these beautifully tame magpie groups, I guess, just wandering around, kind of asking to be researched because they're not afraid of people, and that's a huge advantage if you want to do research.
Are all the magpies around the country the same species, or are there different subspecies?
No, there's quite a few subspecies. There's 8 different.
Sorry, I'm just interrupting for a second. Isn't it interesting that researching birds that have been habituated and their behaviour is a little bit different because they've been habituated and used to feeding by people and living alongside people is... Yeah, it's just interesting. It's just interesting. Now, if you've just popped in, and Shane, I'm sorry, I always forget. I can't remember now who's. Oh, it's Chris. It's Chris who's in Melbourne. Sorry, you're in the southwest of Sydney. I hadn't seen this, and I did see the promotion that it was a piece for Bird Week. I've actually reached out to Amanda Ridley, who is the interview subject here with Josh Burns, and a few of her team, some of the postgrads who have been through UWA, and some of the people doing PhD candidate studies now, to join me on the show. So we're going to do quite a bit of magpie stuff probably over the next month. So that was fortuitous. I didn't know that was in here. Anyway, let's get to the end of this before we get into irrigation.
Different subspecies, and the one we work with here in southern Western Australia is called Gymnorrhina tybeson dorsalis, and it is the only subspecies of all of them that lives in cooperative groups year-round. The rings are for individual identification, so we have one metal ring, which is a unique number, I guess like a license plate number for the bird. That means that we definitely know who that bird is, and then we give them a couple of colours so that every magpie has a unique colour combination. That means when we look at them through binoculars, we can say, well, that's definitely that bird. And the rings are very small, they're very low weight ring, less than a gram, and so it's not a weight issue to put them on the birds.
Spending so much time with these birds, do you recognise them as individuals?
Yeah, definitely, we do. Magpies are wonderfully interactive. They have these really standout personalities. So some magpies we have, for example, in one of our campus groups here, he will just run up to us and just stare at us, and we know that it's him. We don't have to look at his rings, and he'll give us, I guess, little cues that he wants us to interact with him. He'll come up, and if we don't say hello, he'll go. He's like really wants to interact with us.
Yeah, and cloud cover.
Grace Blackburn is a PhD candidate working on Mandy's team.
I definitely spend more time with these guys than I do with my own family. I see them pretty much every morning and they always come running up to me, which is very nice. It's very sweet. So yes, I do love these guys a lot. The experiment I'm doing is looking at associative learning. So it basically tests an individual's ability to associate a colour cue with a food reward and looks at how long it takes for that bird to learn that association. From this cognitive test, I hope to be able to get measures of the associative learning score of different individuals, which is basically how well they can associate different cues from the environment together. And from that, I really hope to see if individuals who have higher associative learning scores or are more cognitively adept are better at responding to anthropogenic or man-made stresses.
And any findings you can share with us?
Yeah, so I've actually just submitted a paper, which is very exciting, finding that birds who do have a higher cognition are better able to maintain their normal anti-predator response during noise. So they're better able to respond to the sound of an alarm cue of another magpie when noise is present if they're more intelligent.
I noticed that you were feeding the birds as part of the experiment. Now, obviously, this is not something that we would normally encourage people to do at home.
Yeah, so I'm feeding them obviously in a very controlled setting, trying not to feed them more than is absolutely necessary, and we do use it as a food reward for our cognitive tasks. We need to motivate them somehow into doing these tests. But we do have licenses. We are licensed to feed them, and we also have animal ethics approval. So we have a lot of things that allow us to do this, and we don't encourage people to do it at home. I think research like this, looking at anthropogenic stresses, is really important in understanding how humans are affecting the wildlife around us, because obviously human population is ever increasing, urbanisation is expanding, so it's really important that we have a keen understanding of all the ways in which we're affecting wildlife.
Are the local magpie populations generally doing well?
No, and this is something I really feel quite passionate about, because I think a lot of people perceive the magpies as being a really common species, because they've adapted so well to our modified landscapes, and they assume they're one of the birds that are really successful and do well, but they're really not. First of all, magpies are long-lived, so the magpies that you see, you might have been seeing for 20 years. And the crucial metric is the number of young that survive to become reproductive adults. And that's where our magpies are failing. And they're failing because of stresses of the urban environment. This is a species that I think is one that you would call experiencing a silent decline. It's not as obvious yet because those adults are still alive. But once those older adults start to die, we're not going to have enough young replacing them.
What can we do to support magpies in urban environments, and particularly in home gardens?
So I think it's really important for magpies to have some good areas of shade. When it gets really hot, they desperately seek these areas because it's easier for them to offload heat. And also in these areas of shade, they can more easily forage because the soil's not as hard-packed. It's much more easy for them to find food. They listen for subterranean prey, and when they hear it moving underground, they have exceptional hearing. They'll pause and then they'll start to dig down into the ground. So they eat a lot of subterranean prey, but they also pick up just prey off the leaves. I guess this is a foraging type we would call gleaning. They'll pick up moths, grasshoppers, anything that's just running about. When the termites emerge, they'll have a feast on the termites. With water, we recommend just shallow bowls of water because we don't want anything that's going to cause drowning. And we have seen some get in trouble in deeper water troughs, so nice, safe little trays of water.
Magpies have always been a constant for me, having been a suburban gardener for much of my life. And I was alarmed to find out that they're much more vulnerable than I previously thought. And this demonstrates the value of the research being done here, as we learn more about the bird's needs, behaviours, and their ability to adapt, in the hope that we can cohabitate for a long time to come.
So there you go. There you go. Let me just pop this out of the stream now. Come on. So, it's an emergency, right? I've been saying it for years. I hope you hadn't already seen that. It ties in with what I wanted to really talk about today, which was getting some irrigation into your garden is important, and I hadn't seen that before, so I didn't know that Josh was going to mention that keeping soil moist in areas where magpies are foraging is really important. I mean, keeping soil moist is one way to ensure that your plants are going to survive/thrive, but all the organisms in the soil biosphere, in the leaf litter, and in the first 10, 15, 20 mils of the soil profile, there's lots of life that lives in there, and the more of that life that is thriving, you've got fungi as well. Bacteria is essential, good bacteria. This all helps with nutrient uptake for the plants that you have selected. So having a little bit of water is really, really important. And that's why when we're designing a garden, we think about zones. And this is where an irrigation system can be really, really helpful. If you want plants, or you need plants that are what we call xerophytic, or are adapted to dry places, or if you've got a slope and you've got a plant up high and along the slope, well, you would add irrigation there that would be intermittent, but that's not going to be the kind of area where a magpie is foraging. They're going to forage on the flat, and where you have spaces for them to effectively graze. They're foraging, but I think you get the idea. If you have a lawn, they will use that, and many birds will use that. Lapwings, the spurwing plover, they'll use those areas. Very similar. They'll listen for insects and then get them, go and pull them out, dig them out. You'll also see, I don't know if you've ever seen the plovers or the lapwings, they'll tap one of their feet on the ground to encourage, I think it's worms that are attracted to vibration in the soil. But those insects and arthropods and other creatures that live in the soil profile, it's easier for them to move around if there's a bit of water available. So the thing that I recommend as a first port of call for watering is drip irrigation. Now I'm going to pull up, I had a look at the Bunnings website, because of course most people are going to be shopping either in Bunnings or a garden centre which is ranging all of these kind of products. So and we'll talk about come on, here we go. So this is the kind of products that you're going to see in front of you on the shelves of any nursery, garden centre, pretty much anywhere in the country, hardware store. And what I always suggest people begin with is something like this a dripper pipe. Drip Ease is what this one is marketed as, but there's Leaky Hose and a whole lot of other brand names now. Oh, I thought this would actually open up. Maybe it's not going to. And to give you an idea, you're looking at about $1 a metre for this kind of product. Here we go. There we go. So obviously the price is going to differ all over the place and over time. So sorry, Bunnings, if someone comes in 5 years and tells you that they saw this price. But it's easy to install. You install it on top of the soil but you cover it with mulch. Let's have a look at what. And they have pressure regulated drippers generally. Yeah, PC, pressure compensated. So it means that it delivers a known volume of water through every dripper over a period of time, usually in litres an hour is how they calculate it. And let's just see. Yeah, it's very, very easy to do. And of course, all the standard fittings, I think we're going to get that next. Oh, one more to go. There we go. All the standard fittings are available, so it's really easy to design. To design for any garden shape and up and down hills and things like that. But people often have issues with going up and down hills, and they're come on, go back. I think we have to go back to here. Sorry, folks. It'd be nice when I get the new computer in a matter of a week or so. Come on. Here we go. Sorry, folks. And also, people who are not shown, please, in the comments, let us know what part of the country you're in. Let me know if you already have an irrigation system in your garden, or if you are thinking of embarking. Now, to have an idea, there's Techline here, which is cheaper per metre because it comes in 200 metre rolls. There's also shorter rolls which are available, but I'm not trying to do a sale on that gear, but I wanted to show you a couple of products which, when you are thinking about putting in any drip irrigation, or even the old leaky hose with drippies or whatever it was. Can you see the one I've got highlighted here? I'm just going to open it up. This is a air release inline valve, which you really need to flush out air in the system, which will stop it working. Yeah, I used to sell all this kind of stuff and design systems with this, and when people would come in and tell me they had problems with their did that say it's no longer available online? Okay, so you have to go in store and buy it. These it's really easy to put them in. You've got standard 15mm threads. You install these at a level where, when you're at the highest point of your piping. So, but we'll do a walkthrough. I'll actually produce a video to show you that. Maybe I'll come out to someone's garden and fix their irrigation or install their irrigation. The other thing you really need to make sure you have, when I get in here, and people often forget or want to save money on the system, you need to have, here we are, a flushing valve at the end of every one of your lines. Good, Shane. We'll get to your comment in a minute. Thank you for that. I'll just show what this one looks like when it eventually comes up. I think it's coming here. But you need to be able to flush out any muck and also air in each of your lines. The simple product or simple device, again, no longer available in store, online. That's really, really simple. What are they? But they're $15 a pop nowadays. Gee. And the other thing you need to have, and it's probably not going to be on this site. We'll just have a look. You need to have a valve in line to make sure that no water from your gardening system can get back into your domestic or your water service system, or if you're on tanks, can be sucked back up into your tanks. No, I'm not seeing one there. So that's pretty much everything I wanted to just talk about with products. But the principles are pretty simple. That you deliver the absolute minimum water that you need to keep your plants healthy and to keep your soil profile healthy. For some plants that require more water, what you do then is if you just put an extra dripper or two on the root zone of that plant. I think we've moved past the days where you uniformly water a whole area like playing fields do, like golf fairways and things do. But even or golf greens. I mean, fairways. We're not in time of drought for most of the country now, but when we are again, there's just no reason. There's no real excuse. There's no justification for wasting water on that. Those kind of uses. You need to keep your really important vegetation alive and thriving. For, as Josh just told us, and as Amanda from UWA just told us on that clip, fantastic little story too, by the way, really well done, I think, that all the bird life and all the animals, the lizards, the frogs, everything need the water to be distributed correctly. And I know I'm probably talking around in circles without actually working on a design or looking at a real life situation. But we'll start doing that as I go out in the field and starting next week, preparing little videos to show what I'm talking about. But if you're going to be trying to encourage wildlife into your garden, you need to make sure that there is always, and I mean continuously always, water available in many different forms, because the animals, insects, fungi, bacteria, whatever is in your garden and is living there, if they move in and they start to live there, they're going to rely on it. And if you take it away, well, then they're going to die. Most animals can't just move. The idea, bird baths and ponds, we're going to focus on a bit more in a couple of weeks. But it's very easy to keep your bird bath full to the level that's required by popping a dripper in it or on the edge of it. The same with ponds. You can always put drippers and drippers, with much greater flow rates than 4 litres an hour or 2 litres an hour at your pond, or you can just put a little float that will turn on when it gets below a certain level. It's really easy to do all these things now, and we'll go through each one. But all these things I've said mean that you really need to have an automated way of turning it on and off. And those kind of devices now are so affordable, and there's so many choices. So we will, trust me, we'll go through those in greater detail, and I'll have to do a video on the site with the devices and show you how it's all done. And we'll work through programming. I've invited people on as well who sell and maintain these kind of products to provide instruction or to join us on site and talk about them. And I'm really trying to get out on site. I don't know if I can stream on site, so I'll have to produce a little video for you all. But when I do that, we will do that. Shane, we're going to get on to your comment now. Thank you for popping that in here. So Shane's been helping out at his local community nursery, and I would really encourage you to do that. A lot of councils have them. A lot of local Indigenous flora and fauna groups run a nursery. They would love a volunteer for sure, and you will learn really important skills if you do it. You'll also learn a lot about the kind of plants in your local area that you can and should be growing. But Shane says, yeah, helps him learn about his local natives, of course. And look, you get given some plants for helping out. The hedgehog grass, really important, really good for your area. And Callistemon pinifolius is one of the best, actually, in my local park where I do my bird first seen and heard. That's Shadow, by the way. I take Shadow on the walk really early every morning, and he comes and he doesn't do first seen and heard with me, but we always hear the first bird together, and we usually see the first bird together. So he's talking to his friends, looking out my window. We've got some fantastic Callistemon pinifolius in the park here, and they're flowering now. Beautiful red. Shane, tell me, the ones you've got, your variety, are they the arching, quite open form, or are they the more rigid, upright form of Callistemon pinifolius? Might just note too, Callistemon pinifolius is a fantastic shrub that provides a bit of protection for birds. It's a little bit prickly, and it's really quite rigid once the stems are mature. They are really stiff. They don't sort of sway so much. Really, really great habitat plant. I should look up the Echinopogon obovatus. I reckon a lot of people won't know that one, so we might get a photo of that one up. What do you reckon? Bear with me while I do my typing, folks. Wouldn't it be great if I could just tell? Actually, I probably can tell Google what to look, but you'll get the spelling wrong. Echinopogon ovatus. Thanks, Shadow. Very good. Here we go. Echinopogon ovatus. How good is this? There we go. We might look for we'll go to PlantNet New South Wales. That would be a good one, wouldn't it? Share this tab. No, that tab's on. Does it have any better photos? Let's share that so you all know what we're talking about. Now, is it going? It's in Poaci. Does it have any other photos? Not really. Okay, so flower head, and go back. Dries out to this fruit. So of course you're going to get your parrots, pigeons, happily getting into this. Go back another one. I'll go back another one. See if we can find a better photo. Oh, here we go. This is it in the landscape. That's what I wanted to show you. Come on. Come on. Here we are. Is it going to show me it in the landscape? Come on. That's better. Let's have a look at this one. There we go. So, yeah. And the best way to provide grasses in the landscape is in tussocks like this, with space between for birds like quail and pigeons and even your grass parrots and whatnot to move amongst it. Okay. Shane's... Oh, I just took that out. It's popped up again. There we go. There we go. I'm back. So Shane's mentioned it's the arching or the drooping variety. That's what we have here in the park too. And they're serving as a middle layer plant in a cosp, a fairly dense planting of LA casuarinas. So there's fruiting at the moment. The fruiting cones of the LA casuarinas above, interspersed with a few wattles and some eucalypts, and there's some golden wattle, Eucalyptus pycnantha, growing in there as well, but interspersed with eucalypts like the lemon-scented gum and the spotted gum and a couple of paperbarks. It's a really nice little planting, and I'll probably I'll do a video walking through and just to show how a small area planted well can be a really important area. The crested pigeons, noisy miners, red wattlebirds use it extensively, and the magpies graze or forage. There's graze. They use the lower level, the ground. It's heavily mulched, and it's a nice spot. You have an advantage over park managers these days in your garden, because for reasons of safety, perceived safety and tidiness, most public parks now have no real understory. It's so people can see through groups of trees. And I remember when I was working in Parks and Gardens maintenance not long after I'd graduated, most garden beds in parks and public institutions still had low-level garden beds, and we still had thornbills and fairy wrens and other birds using them. But over time, they've tended to be removed, and I will actually show you the different places that I go regularly where there just is no understory, which means there's no small birds. So you've got a real advantage in your garden, and if you're networking with friends and neighbours, to replace that habitat which has been taken away. You'll notice it too on roadsides, school grounds. If you're familiar with places that you've been able to, walk by or drive by for 15 or 20 years, I'm sure you'll agree with me that we've just lost so much of that habitat. And actually, I'll talk to, on the 30th, here I can do a plug now, just looking up at the board, Monday the 30th, midday, Australian Eastern Daylight Time. That's the next Monday with Holly, but Daryl Jones is back with us then. And, we often talk about the fragmented landscape and the issues of feeding birds. And actually, we'll get to that again in a minute. We'll talk about some of these issues, and I'm really hoping that I've spoken to a manager of large areas of public space about this very issue before then, and we can play that taped interview then. I'm hoping that's going to happen in the next few days. While I'm talking about what's coming up, I don't expect many of you will jump in and watch this live, but I'll replay it, obviously. But on Friday morning, midnight, my time, on this coming Friday, I'm speaking with Alex Lees, who is a reader in biodiversity, I think is his title, at the Manchester University. But he's published so many papers, and he was the lead author in the recent State of the World's Bird report, which came out late last year, that showed an over 20% decline in bird populations since the previous report. Alex will be talking to me about all sorts of things. First cab off the rank will be the state of the world's birds. And Alex is an expert. He spent years studying the biodiversity of the Amazonia. We'll be talking about the state of the Amazon. But he's he's got lots of other interests, but two of his other main interests are vagrancy in birds, and in the last couple of years, really unusual vagrancy has been occurring, particularly in the Northern Hemisphere. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Alex has got a book out called Vagrancy in Birds as well, academic tome, so I don't think you'll find that in the bookstores. Daryl Jones has got a new book that's out shortly too, and he'll be touring, doing meet and greets and sort of book lectures in the early part of November. So look out for that, and we'll promote those dates too for him. But the other thing Alex is going to talk to me about is he's got a really good paper about feeding of wildlife. And there's a lot of issues involved in it. And in terms of the bird organisations around the world, BirdLife Australia is about the only one that doesn't recommend or that actively discourages feeding wildlife, feeding birds. So we'll talk about those issues. I'm really torn on the issue. Really, really torn on the issue because I think I think to be consistent, if you're going to say that you shouldn't be feeding birds and wildlife, well, then you probably need to extend the argument out and say you should only be planting indigenous kind of plants, and you should only be designing, and certainly public spaces, large public spaces, should only be encouraging the birds that can find food naturally in that area. And I just think it's too simple to say that there should be one kind of rule. I think there's ways to do it, and I think there's kinds of food that can be provided, and there's ways to make sure that the feeding areas and the methods of feeding ensure that the animals and the birds are safe from really opportunistic predation. Anyway, that's a whole different topic for another day. Okay, so we've gone pretty long this morning. Do you have a question or a comment? And let me know. Also, if there's things that you want me to cover, because these morning sessions are really supposed to be a Q&A and for me to highlight something that you can make use of if you are going later today or tomorrow to a garden centre or a nursery. And as we get guests on and I do more interviews on this theme, they'll be at different times, and you can check them all out on the YouTube channel or Facebook, the Facebook page for the Bird Emergency as they're up there. But I really encourage you all, make use of the YouTube page, the YouTube channel. All of the talks I've had with people going back 3 years, 3.5 years are all up there. There's so much useful information, and you can see how things have changed over time. And that's the first place that everything ends up. It does take me a while to get things out, edited and pushed out into the other channels, and that's probably not going to change in a hurry. There's always a lag on getting things produced and out there. So let me know. It's over to you. Questions, comments, suggestions before we wrap up. I should note, if you're watching on Twitter or the X thing, I can't see comments or questions. I can't monitor it while we're doing the live stream. So if you are, and the same goes for LinkedIn too, if you are watching, consuming on LinkedIn or Twitter, make the move over to Facebook or to YouTube or to Twitch, and then you can be involved, as you saw Shane was there. Okay, I'll just wait another minute or two and see if anyone is coming in. Shane, you got anything else you want to let me know? I want to know where you got your hat and how long you've had your hat for in your profile pic. I reckon it's a ripper. I'm in the market for a new hat, deciding whether to go like yours or whether I'll just go with the sort of cane weave variety. I always find I have to have the strap done up because you're out in the wind and they just get whipped off. Yeah. Anyway. All right. Last call, as they say. Waiting for a question or a comment. Now, between now and next week, I am visiting a couple of really good garden centres and a fantastic sort of display garden as an add-on to a nursery. So I'll be taking some footage and some shots of what I think are really good examples of little patches of planting that are great habitat, and hopefully that will inspire you a little bit. And I will probably dig up a few more useful videos for us to critique, to have a look at, learn something from, and critique. So, with no more questions coming in. Oh, here we go. Shane. Oh, this is your hat. Okay, good. Is it coming up? It's your old army slouch hat. Well, you can't beat an old army slouch hat, really, can you? Do you have to put the chin strap on though, Shane? I find hats always blow off my head unless I'm wearing a fairly tight-fitting cap. So, yeah. This one, by the way, is from the Adelaide... there we are. I don't know if you can see it. All right, Shane, thank you for that comment. Thanks for joining me live, folks. I love the live interactions. So we'll be back this time next week, and if I can get the interviews confirmed when they're happening, they'll also be live streamed. So, of course, make sure you are subscribed or follow. Facebook and YouTube are the first ports of call. I probably won't stream the other interviews to, well, I'm sure as I go to Insta and LinkedIn and Twitter. So do make sure you into Facebook and YouTube, subscribed or followed, and get involved in First Seen and Heard. I'm going to start doing a lot more promotion and a lot more interactive First Seen and Heard things as a continuation from Bird Week. Shane, you've been doing the count. You've been enjoying it. Let's sort of continue the momentum so that you get more into your local patch. And the Great Southern Bio Blitz is coming up, and I'll be doing a lot of features on that too, and interviewing people from all over the Southern Hemisphere who are getting involved in the BioBlitz, which is really about noticing and recording as a citizen science project, plants, animals, insects, birds in your area, so that it contributes to the body of science around the world. Shane, what did you say about your chin strap? No chin strap. It blows off. Looking forward to the pond episode. Yeah, the pond episode is... I'll probably be featuring some products about ponds tomorrow. I actually studied at Burnley with one of the best users of water in the landscape in the country and probably in the world in terms of making an artificial landscape look natural and be really useful for wildlife. I'm hoping that I will get that person in to do a stream, but before that I want to record some pieces with him and show you what is possible, both on mega budgets and in mega landscape examples, but also in small spaces and on a really limited budget, because we want to try and make sure everyone can build some homes for wildlife in their garden, be it a balcony or a patio or 25 acres, or 100 acres, hectares, whatever. Okay. Thanks, Shane. Thanks the rest of you who didn't make yourselves known, but it's great catching up with people each morning. We'll see you next Saturday morning at 9:30 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. And please do, today, tomorrow, the last days of Bird Week, and stay involved. Get involved, stay involved. See ya.